Selling high ticket does not have to be sleazy. It doesn't have to be all about grinding. In fact, it doesn't even have to be difficult. In fact, I think it's actually relatively easy. So this video is going to be incredibly important for you if you do want to sell high ticket. I'm going to show you exactly how, walk you through my exact framework, the process. I promise it's going to be extremely easy. Today, this video is about the complete guide to selling high ticket. For those that don't know, I don't just make YouTube videos. I've actually been a sales consultant for a number of years, teaching countless different industries, different businesses, how to sell high ticket in a very non-sleazy way. And again, I think it's incredibly important to point out, without all the hustle, without the grinding, a way that you could do it with way less effort, but actually doing it in a way that feels good. That doesn't make you feel like those sales trainers out there today that are wearing the tight little shorts and yelling at you from the mountaintops and screaming at you to be a man, be tough. And that's not what this video is about. So if you're into that, maybe this is not for you. But if you're still with me, good chance you want a different way of selling. And that's what today's video is actually going to be all about. So with that being said, what are we going to get out of this? So today, here are the three things, the three concepts you're going to learn. Number one, the mind shift that you need to have to go from someone who hates selling, who hates the negative connotation with it, which by the way, it's deserved. Most of the imagery out there about sales isn't all that great. So if you're someone like me who started off in sales and actually didn't like it, I have a bit of a mind shift for you that I think is going to help. Number two, the process to enroll more clients. I'm taking you through my step-by-step sales guide that I've been using for a number of years. A number of businesses that I've worked with are now using it, and they've found some pretty good success. And then finally, we're gonna focus on how do we do the process with less effort. And if you're a founder out there watching this and you're someone that has been doing sales on their own, you're the main salesperson, but you're also the CEO, I'm gonna kind of tell you how you can clone yourself and shift from the person doing all the work, doing the sales, doing the fulfillment, and then step into that CEO role without having your sales plummet, which definitely tends to happen. So who does this work for? I'll tell you right now, it works for coaches, creative agencies, insurance agencies, higher education, social media agencies. I've worked with companies like SAP, software, you name it. If you sell high ticket, I promise you this thing will work if you let it work. All right, so let's jump in first to the mindset. So we're gonna go from selling to enrollment. Like I told you earlier, when I first started off in sales, it was just the typical salespeople out there kind of telling you that those individuals out there, they have your money in their pocket. You just have to figure out how to get it. I didn't really like that philosophy. Didn't really resonate with me, but I was in sales. So I read the books, I did the trainings, and I was pretty decent at sales. But then I had this bit of a mind shift. I realized for me, and by the way, if you're watching this and you're like, no, that's not what sales is. Listen, this is just a mind shift. And if you think differently about sales, great. And if it works, phenomenal. But this is how I look at it. Sales is about a transaction. To me, for example, here's a good example of sales. You're selling low ticket. You can create copy and emails and sell tons of your low ticket product, your digital ebooks or what have you, and you don't really need a whole lot to it. You just have to have really good copy and you're good to go. But for us that sell high ticket, listen, we have to go from sales to helping them have a transformation. Taking them from one place to another is good, but can I help you become the person that you want to become and help show you the strategies to becoming your future self? If I can help you do that, well, guess what? Whatever I have to offer you, could be a software, could be whatever, it's kind of a byproduct of that. That's nice, I will take it, but at the end of the day, I'm looking for the transformation. That's where enrollment comes in. We're not just enrolling them into our product or software, our strategy or coaching. We're enrolling them in the future self. Who do you want to become? Are you ready to become that person? And it just so happens that I have a vehicle to take you there. So the mind shift I want you to kind of think about, I'm going to use the word enrollment a lot instead of sales, because again, most likely if you're watching this, there's a good chance you don't really love the idea of selling, but enrolling. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people not a transaction here, but an actual transformation. So with that kind of starting here, let's talk about the process. So there's a whole bunch of inspiration that I kind of gathered, pieces that I pulled together from different experts out there as I was kind of learning, one, how to enroll people myself, but also how high ticket sales was done in the past. what are some things I can pull together? And there's a few books that I'm just gonna recommend off the top that you'll notice that if you've read those books, you're like, oh, I see where he pulled from. So there's a handful of them. One is Persuasion by Robert Cialdini and Influence. The other one is The Challenger Sale. The other one is gonna be Daniel Pink's To Sell is Human. There's tons of resource out there. You just have to like find the right ones. But for me, those three are like the end all be all. If you wanted to go a little bit more in depth, probably Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Really great for tactics. But for strategy today, that's what we're gonna focus on is the process. And the main thing we're gonna talk about is the Challenger Sale and also Persuasion, which starts the first part of this process of enrolling more people. Step number one, we're going to work on some persuasion. So before that call even happens, if you're someone, for example, that is struggling with high ticket sales, there's a really good chance it's actually not your process. Part of it is the quality of leads, and we're gonna increase that. How we're gonna increase the quality of leads is using persuasion. Robert Cialdini calls this persuasion, and I love his analogy for this. He talks about how in high ticket sales or just sales in general, if you were a farmer, for example, and you had this terrible soil and you just planted a plant, it's a really good chance it's not gonna grow. And if it does grow, it's not gonna be all that healthy, so on and so forth. However, if you were to work the soil, put the fertilizer in it, kiss, I don't know what you do if you're a farmer, but you love it, give it a nice massage, and then plant the seed, it's gonna grow that much better. And that's what we're trying to do in the front end. We want to, my good friend Joe Polish, he talks about marketing's job is to get people pre-interested, pre-motivated, predisposed to buy. That means that by the time they get to the call, they should be already pretty much there. You just gotta push them across the finish line. Now, here's the truth. Most of us out there that are doing high ticket sales are just doing cold DMing, getting them a phone call, and you gotta do all the legwork on the call. That's not an efficient way to do it. We want really solid attraction marketing to help them do that. One little tip on this is you could, when you're actually setting appointments with people for these calls, for these high ticket sales calls, you can actually ask certain questions. Hey, this is the investment. It's gonna be between this and this. Are you actually able and ready to make that investment? How important is solving this problem for you? Do you want it gone today, or is it something that you're just thinking about doing maybe in a couple years? These are certain questions that we can actually persuade the person to get in the right position to buy. It's not gonna make them buy the high ticket thing off the table, but we wanna make sure everyone we meet with is actually someone that's willing to to move forward. So that's the first step actually, is the persuasion bit. Now, the next step is gonna be setting the stage. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people do in high ticket selling is they let the customer take over the conversation right from the beginning. It's incredibly hard to get it back. If you've been on a call like this before and someone starts talking, asking questions, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? How much is it? You're already off to a bad start, and the customer is actually leading the conversation. Here's why, in my opinion, you shouldn't let the customer lead the conversation. The reason they got on the call with you in the first place is that you're the expert. They need your help. So for them leading the call, it makes zero sense. It's the blind leading the blind. So instead, you're actually going to set the stage, I call it. It's your ability to establish, number one, yourself as the expert, but number two, lead the phone call so all those questions that are out of order doesn't happen. So in the Challenger Sale, I mentioned that book earlier, the number one reason they say that people buy is your understanding of the landscape. It's your understanding of the industry, what's going on, the trends, the problems that people are trying to solve. You are the expert here, and this is a really good opportunity for you to set that up and set the stage. Step number one is having a statement that is setting the stage. It's something kind of similar to this, where you would say something like, for me, my name is Raylen. Obviously, you know that, but my job in this call is to figure out, one, if I can help you and how I can help you. And I know most customers that come to this call, they're struggling somewhere with their sales. Either they're working too hard for the sale, they're not getting enough of them, their teams aren't really being successful. And so they usually come to me because they go, is there an easier way? Can I have less effort but get more sales and have high quality conversations and high quality customers that ultimately lead to a way better LTV? They lead to way better conversations and way better clients. If this sounds like you, basically on this call, I'm gonna figure out what have you tried, what are the problems, and ultimately if I can help you. At the end of this call, I'm gonna determine whether or not we're a good fit for each other. And if we are, I'll tell you how to get started. How's that sound? Something like that, okay? Take it, make it your own, but that's what we do when we set the stage. Now, I alluded to this earlier, which is we have to go into what do they want. Here's the thing, again, another problem I see people do is we assume we know the problem, all right? We assume, more importantly, I think, that we understand what the customer needs and the problems they're going through. We may think we do, but unless the customer knows, unless they get articulated to us, we can't sell them anything. We can't offer the high ticket sale if they're not clear on their own problem. So number one is getting clear on what problems they're going through. But I think even more important than that is on understanding what's important to them. What do they want? And in some cases, when I first ask the first question, I start with, what do you want? Because at the end of the day, if they aren't clear what destination they're trying to go to, what does the problem matter? It doesn't, right? So the first stage, after we establish that, hey, we're the expert here, we're gonna lead the call, you gotta find out what do they want, where do they wanna go, and ultimately, what problems have they uncovered? What are some things they've tried in the past? This is really important when it comes to asking again, like, okay, what have you tried before? This is a question that not a lot of people ask. The reason why it's so important is, what if they tried something similar to yours? This later on gives you the ability, when you're explaining your solution, why it's different. Here's how it's different. Here's why, by the way, that failed, if I'm being honest. So the next stage here is the reframe. Again, this comes from the challenger sale. The idea is you have to challenge the way that they're looking at the problem. One of the things I talk about a lot when I'm training teams when it comes to high ticket sales is you have to become a coach, not a salesperson. Transformation happens at the coaching level, right? Like I remember, growing up in sports, the coach was the person that actually helped me want to be a better person. It helped me look at things different, and they gave me the aha moment. If you can position yourself not as the sleazy salesperson, but as the coach that's trying to help them, you're gonna have a way better time selling. Now, I will say this as well. Comes with being a coach is you have to call out stuff that's not right. For example, maybe they're looking at the problem wrong. This whole time, they thought lead generation, this happens to me all the time. They go, lead generation's my problem. We're getting tons of leads. They're not really great quality. But then you take a look at the conversations they're having and go, actually, your sales team is just not good. Hey, look at the way you're making these dials. You're wasting time here, and your best clients you're not getting to until 2, 3, 4 days later. There's ways that you can look at the problem, and if you can reframe the problem for them, one, that establishes that you understand the landscape. You understand what's going on in their business better than them in a lot of cases. And it also opens the door for this most important statement that they can make, which is, I've never looked at it that way. If you get someone to have an aha moment, again, man, I never looked at it that way, you're on the right path. So that's the other stage, the reframe. After we reframe the problem, again, the challenger sale calls this rational drowning. The idea is really simple, right? Everyone thinks that in high ticket sales, everyone just buys emotionally, and that's not entirely accurate. Yes, there is emotion that comes with it, but if you do something like the DISC training or any other personality type of test or quiz like that, you will realize there's many types of people. Some people actually do buy logically. They look at the data, they know the problem, they're really smart, they dive in. There's a customer recently that I've been working with that took almost a year to make the decision. There was nothing that I could do. There's no emotional levers I could pull. She was just someone that wants to do her research. So in those situations, you have to supply logic and data. So for example, right, when we're talking about the problems that my company solves when it comes to sales consulting, is cloning the founder. The biggest problem that we have realized is that 80% of founders that we have worked with are still doing their sales calls because they feel like they can't give away their enthusiasm. They're frustrated. They've gone through upwards of 5 to 10 salespeople every single year, and on average, it takes about $100,000 to train a new sales rep. That means that they're blowing almost $1 million of money that they don't see. That's why they don't notice it, and training sales reps, and there's a better way. That's an example of using logic and data to support your claims and that you understand the problem. So after that though, I know people are like, but people do buy, Raylen, people do buy high ticket because of emotion. And you're absolutely right. That's why in the next stage, we're gonna talk about the emotional impact. So the emotional impact, and by the way, I love this meme. Emotional damage is like it's the funniest thing in the world. But anyway, we're gonna talk about the personal impact to them. So if you're selling to, by the way, B2B, and you're talking directly to a founder, yeah, it's talking about the lack of personal freedom that they have. The reason that they became an entrepreneur, they became a founder in the first place, was because of the fact they wanted personal freedom. They wanted the ability to just take off and go to Disneyland and know that their business is not going to implode. Recently, I was talking to a potential customer, and he was planning on going to Paris for the Olympics. And he was worried. He said, I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks. I don't know what's gonna happen to my business because I'm the salesperson. That's a great example of someone that is working in the business. They can't give away their expertise when it comes to selling. And as a result of that, they now lack personal freedom. So what's the emotional impact? Well, it's your wife being mad because you don't ever take time off. It's your kids being pissed because you can't go to the playground with them because you got to work some more. So all of these emotional impacts to them, this is the point you want to bring that up. And if you don't know it, ask the question. Just out of curiosity, let's say you don't solve this problem, what's it going to do for you? How's that going to impact you? And by the way, and no sales trainer tells you this, if they don't have an answer, or if it's not that big of an emotional impact, maybe it's not that important for them to solve the problem. And if it's not that important to solve the problem, well, when you sell them, they're not gonna be the greatest client in the world anyway. So maybe you actually don't pitch. I know it's a bit controversial, but it is what it is. The next stage is we're actually gonna cover the strategy and your solution. So this is where you start to go over this in 2 parts. That's why I split this up. The strategy and your solution. Because your solution, whatever your offer is, solves a problem, and there's a certain particular way that the strategy goes into the solution. So I'll give you an example, right? So right now, I'm actually covering with you my strategy for helping people enroll more clients with less effort. The strategy, technically, you can take and try to do it on your own, and you should be able to. Hence the reason why I'm doing a YouTube video right now. I'm giving you value. The way that I actually implement this is gonna be different than somebody else. That is your solution. Give the strategy and how it solves the problem, then give your solution. What is the way that you package it up so that the business or the individual can actually get the result they're looking for? Now, here comes the difference. For me, I always offer a choice because there's always a choice, right? And what we're looking for at the end of a high ticket sales call is a yes or a no, not a maybe. Maybes are death, right? Because maybe, and I'm not just saying from the perspective of like, well, if they say maybe, then you don't get the sale. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is maybes are death because of how much time, money, and energy goes into following up with a maybe. If they go, I need to think about it, I got to do X, Y, and Z, that means that that's money, that's time, and that's energy. You have to think about that potential client some more when they probably should have just said no. So in this choice, or in this position, I'm going to offer you a choice. We have established that the problem is worth solving. It's important to you. You need to solve the problem. We've also established that the strategy, we agree that the strategy that we need to employ is this strategy. Yes? Yes, that's the strategy. I know what's gonna work for my business. Okay, great. Now you have a choice. Either A, I could do it for you. And this is what it would look like, right? It's gonna cost, the investment is gonna be this amount of money a month, or it's gonna be this amount for a workshop, or whatever it is for you. Or you could take the strategy I just gave you and you could go do it alone. The problem is some people that I reach out to, that choose this option, just a heads up, they don't actually implement it. They don't implement it, they don't go forward with it. They think they can do it, and then I talk to them in like 90 days or 6 months later, and the problem is still there. So the choice is yours though, which one do you wanna do? This is my way of getting the yes. This is my way of establishing like, look, you have a choice. I know you could do this on your own. The problem is I know you don't want to. So it's either A, you do it alone, or B, you do it with me. Either way, you got to do it. So at the end of this, you should have a yes or a no. The no obviously is I'm going to do it alone. And in that case, you can support them through a long-term nurture maybe. You can support them in your free content. And then when they come back around, they've at least have tried something and they know for certain, 100%, I can't do this by myself. I need to pay you, the business owner, for doing it. So that in its entirety? How do you say that word? That is the process as a whole, okay? So the good part is, again, you can absolutely do this alone. This is how you do it with less effort. The great part is, I mentioned this earlier, that when we work with founders, most of the time, they're doing something similar to this. The problem is they have to be able to do it. The way that you can do it with less effort is before they even get to the call, you package this up in a video similar like this. You describe what the process is. You take people through one to many what this looks like, and you do what's called an on-demand webinar or just an evergreen webinar. The beautiful thing about something like that is because you can take the people through it. If they still want to buy via on-demand, give them the option. They could buy it. That's great. We're going to get going. The other option is they could book a call still to learn more, but at least they have all the information. At that point, It's really just to make sure they're a good fit for your company. So with that being said, I have a step-by-step 7-day email course that you can take. I'll put it in the description below, and then you can kind of walk through the process. Let me know if you need anything else. And as always, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If this was valuable at all to you, make sure you hit the like button. It helps other people see this. This is high ticket selling, my complete guide to actually getting more high ticket sales with less effort. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you do this? How do you actually go through and implement this strategy? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.